Let's talk about Sonnet 1 of the Bloodless Blade. So I'm not going to restate or reread the entire sonnet. You can go back to the short to read that. But what I am going to do is go through line by line and explain what my intent was behind each one. This is going to be a completely unscripted video, so we'll see how that goes. So to start with, we have the prince's sword was gleaming at his waist. I think that's pretty clear what that means. It means the prince's sword was gleaming at his waist. But it's the reason I've started the entire poem with that is because that's really what this whole thing is about. It's about that sword. It's about how that sword came to be a family heirloom and why it's important. So that's why we're starting with a description of the sword and where it comes from. Then we have betwixt the quillions laid the reddest gem. So I went with an alternative spelling of quillions. Quillions is usually spelt with only one I at the beginning, not the second I afterwards. I preferred quillions rather than quillons, so I went with this spelling. A lot of people spell it without the second I. As far as I can tell, it's really just a preference thing. And then we have the reddest gem. I'm not going to explain that just yet, but that will become important much later in the poem, why it's red, why specifically it's red. Then encircled by blue fire-painted case. In this case, what I'm talking about with fire painting is, you know when you have steel and you heat it up with a blowtorch or other hot flame to make it turn green or blue or purple? That's what I'm talking about here. So in this time period, this is early Renaissance, you're going to have to be very, very wealthy to afford something like this. Magic does exist in this world, so that makes it a little easier. But just generally speaking, this is going to be something that's really hard to afford. So this is demonstrating the wealth of this royal family. The grip was grooved with leaves into a stem. Okay, so now we're seeing that this is something ornate. And that continues on with a flower pommel rested on its end. So this is the whole hilt of the blade is shaped like a flower of some kind, and the garden quillion's roots about the blade. Again, leaning into that ornamental, that sort of ornamental vibe of this blade. Like, this is a very, very intricate, very expensive blade, clearly has some kind of meaning to the prince, which we will learn later on. Then we have itself as sharpened silver could contend among the finest smiths had ever made. So like, this is an amazing blade. This is great. This is like one of the best swords you've ever seen. I'm really trying to hammer that home to really harp on how important this sword is in the context of the family that it's being passed down in as an heirloom. And yet upon its length it bore no stain, no thrust nor cut had ever broken skin. Suddenly, okay, this is such an ornate weapon, such an amazing weapon, but it's never been used in battle even once, ever. Never stabbed anyone with it. Maybe it's a new blade, maybe it's not. My intent here is that no, this prince takes pains to be a pacifist. He takes pains to be a pacifist, but we'll learn later he has become quite cynical in the system that he's in, and that drive to be a pacifist is breaking down a little bit. So the brilliant blade outshone a history plain. That's just, again, really repeating that same sentiment that, hey, it's never really been used in any battle. It has a very plain, boring history. In verse, the prince whose mask hid strife within. So that's really telling you, hey, this prince has layers. He's like an ogre. He's like Shrek, except he's not green. He's a normal prince. Maybe he does become an ogre at night. We don't know. You don't know. I know he doesn't, but he might. You don't know yet. Anyway, he gazed upon the man who'd come to kneel, so someone is petitioning him for something. That is our introduction to the actual action of this part of the poem. He gazed upon the man who'd come to kneel, with hope a kinship past raised his appeal. So here, I'm going for a double meaning. So both the prince hopes that he'll be able to give this person what he wants, but also the person who's petitioning hopes the prince can give him what he wants. So they both hope that, hey, from this friendship we have in the past, I really, really hope that something good can come of this. And so that's the whole idea behind Sonnet 1. Let me know what you think, if I should keep doing these. Obviously, I am going to go at least up to Sonnet 10, but if people aren't interested at that point, maybe I'll stop, maybe I'll keep going, we'll see. Obviously, I'll still write all 100 poems because I want to write this poem, but we'll see if I keep going with the explications. But yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to hear more.